The cartoon that taught children how to Angel Hare. In this video, we're going to be covering Angel Hare, the children's show that was quite meant to be watched by children. We've covered this topic before on the channel, but in this video, we'd like to have a much deeper dive. This is a story about a young man named Jonah. One day, Jonah enters a thrift store and finds a VHS tape of his favourite childhood show he loved, named Angel Hare. It's a Christian cartoon that aired with 6 episodes that's about a badger named Francis and his angelic friend Angel Gabby. Jonah gets a rush of comfort and nostalgia when he first sees these tapes. Even though he has all the episodes recorded on his VCR, he decides to take it home and watch it. But as soon as he watches, he can tell something is off about the show. The show is different than how he remembers. Thank God that Jonah had recordings of the show. So in this, he starts making comparisons between the VHS tapes versus his VCR recordings and shares his findings with us on YouTube. As he does this, he feels through his childhood memories and his strange old recordings. Through his journey, Jonah quickly figures out that Angel Gabby isn't just an ordinary character. Jonah might have been out of Angel Hare's light, but it seems that Angel Gabby still hasn't forgotten about Jonah. Most of the episodes follow a pretty simple pattern. Francis has an issue, Angel Gabby gives a solution through biblical teaching, and the problem gets solved. What makes this show interesting is how it's altered through the spectating of our main character Jonah. Now let's dive into the series. Tape 1. Were you an Angel Hare child? Jonah starts off with commentary telling us that he's found an old VHS tape of Angel Hare at a second-hand store. He tells us about his good memories that were brought to him because of this show. It's similar to a show like VeggieTales that teaches kids lessons through biblical scripture, but with a way more personal twist. This episode is about social skills, how to introduce yourself to others, and how to make friends, which is demonstrated by Francis telling us that he's fearful on how to make a new friend, which is then solved by Angel Gabby explaining making friends is as easy as introducing your name and telling the other person what you like. But Jonah realises that the VHS tape that he's gotten from the shop has some startling differences than the ones he recorded on the VCR. The release tape does teach the audience how to meet other people, but the VCR recording had much more personal undertones. In the VCR recording, Angel Gabby, the main character, breaks the usual rules of TV shows by talking directly to Jonah. This piques Jonah's interest because he always thought the main character of the show was himself. This disturbs Jonah, which leads him down a main question. Why are the VHS tapes different from the VCR recording? He then tells us that curiosity is getting the best of him, and he must find out what's in the rest of the 6 episodes of Angel Hare. He wants to see if there's any other differences within the rest of the tapes. Jonah had first thought he had remembered the show incorrectly, but to his finding did remember the show correctly. It just didn't air to everyone else the exact same. That's spooky. Tape 1 thoughts. The first thing I noticed about this series right off the bat is the music choice of this tape. It's a slow reverbed version of a song about a guardian angel. I tried to Shazam the song, but nothing came up for it, leading me to believe that this was a song solely created for the series. The song is good on the ears. It's light and it feels comforting, but at the same time, it feels inappropriate and disturbing. It's a creative metaphor for this episode. The music was perfectly chosen for this show, because it's disturbing, yes, but it leaves you feeling slightly uneasy. Similar to the feeling you get from watching The Back Rooms. It's disturbing, but it feels familiar to you. The part of this episode that stands out the most, that demonstrates this feeling best, is when Gabby has a close-up when she first introduces herself on the VCR recording of this tape. She says, "It's nice to meet you, Jonah." You say to yourself at first, this is just a normal introduction. Then you realise, no it's not. Jonah is the name of our protagonist. How did Gabby hear our protagonist's name? But you're not really too creeped out because Angel Gabby is just a cute looking angel bunny so it doesn't startle you too much. It's just kind of eerie, that's all. Tape 2. Angel Hare's Cursed Lessons, Uncut. The second part of the story starts off with Jonah telling us that he's attempted to find more information on the Angel Hare show. He gets information on the distribution company and says the original distribution company that packaged the episodes cannot be found on the internet. Jonah then tells us he's watched the VHS tape and the VCR recordings, and the differences between the two are now too obvious. On the VHS copy, the episode begins with Francis asking the question of how could he have had a good day when there's bad weather outside. Gabby suggests to Francis that with faith and hope they can still have a good day. It may not take them physically strong, but it sure helps them remain mentally strong, she concluded. Jonah then expresses his confusion for the strange differences in the VCR recording that he's about to show us. The VCR recording starts with Gabby visibly upset, and she addresses Jonah once more, directly. She says that the sun is warm sometimes, Jonah, but you should remember when it burns you. This is a different interaction than in the VHS tapes. Francis's audio stays consistent throughout this segment, but Gabby's one, like Jonah told us earlier, is no longer subtle. Gabby then ends off by telling Jonah that, I can show you how to be stronger, even though you're so small, interrupting Francis's audio and ending the segment. Next, we go on to the second lesson in this tape. This time around, the VHS tape starts off with Francis in despair about not being able to travel home with the water blocking his path. Angel Gabby then arrives and insists to Francis that it's alright. Gabby informs Francis that looking for a cross is a superior solution than just to give in to despair. Jonah switches over to the VCR recording this time. Francis explains his problem once more about not being able to cross the path to get home. The VHS tape shows us visual glitching. The voice gets distorted. In the darkest of times, you must never give in to despair, Jonah, Gabby continues. This is the part of the story where there's such a darker turn. Gabby breaks the script again and starts to fly up to the clouds, with there being a door directly in front of her. She enters a room and tells Jonah that we feel the safest when we go in our room, and then she asks our protagonist if he too wants to feel safe. Angel Gabby then proceeds to use a metaphor, using David and Goliath as a reference to talk about the chair in the room, and proceeds to put the chair on the door, blocking it from being open from an intruder outside. She tells Jonah to join her in hiding in the closet. Gabby then ends off with giving Jonah insight on how to remain tranquil within a dark environment, demonstrating the strategies she uses to remain calm. Then Jonah reveals to us that it wasn't always just him and his mom within his household. There was always another person, referred to as he. Tape 2 thoughts. I question to myself why Gabby's advice is aggressive to Jonah in comparison to what she gives to the other kids that watch the show. An example of this is at the beginning when we're shown the VHS tape. The advice Gabby gives, which is to use faith and hope to traverse through despair, versus the VCR recording advice of just becoming stronger and to know something that it's good still hurts you. What makes Jonah's situation need a more aggressive approach than the other kids? What's great about my question is that it's quickly answered throughout this tape. When Gabby demonstrates to our protagonist how to properly board his door in, and how to effectively hide away from someone in the closet, there's someone within Jonah's early childhood that requires Jonah to behave aggressively with him, know how to board his door in, and hide away effectively. This, I speculate, comes from the he character that Jonah lightly brushes on at the end of the tape. Jonah was clearly in an abusive household. From Gabby demonstrating how to evade effectively, we can also guess that Jonah hasn't been able to get away from his abuser. Thus, Gabby wouldn't have the necessity to even share this information. The last thing I noticed is that Jonah says she was always there when I needed her, in response to Gabby showing us her room. This lastly tells us that during the abuse, Gabby was always around to assist Jonah in his serious troubles, which is possibly the reason why Jonah relies so heavily on this Angel Hare show in the first place. Tape 3. What big ears you have. Jonah starts off with commentary telling us that his mom told him that everyone has scars and this is okay. He then tells us that he's going to continue digging in his memories with Angel Hare. The Angel Hare episode starts off with Gabby and Francis is what they call God's armour. Gabby uses this as a moment to teach about Ephesians 6:10-18, to say that the real weapon is the sharp wit and powerful depth of his word. Then the disturbing levels crank up a notch when Angel Gabby asks Jonah to nod once if he's not coming back for a while. In the next showing, Gabby then asks Jonah to take something that's not shown to us on screen off the tape, and to be careful when holding it, as it's too heavy to use two hands. Jonah's commentary tells us that he talked to Gabby for hours. The VCR then cuts to Gabby telling Jonah that he must hide the pieces, but he can't hide it in his toy chest because it would be very incriminating. Then we're closed off with Angel Hare, Gabby telling us that she hopes to never draw a weapon, but for them to always stay ready. Tape 3 thoughts. At this point, my suspicions of Jonah being abused as a child were correct, which was confirmed when Gabby told Jonah to nod if he was going to be gone for a while. It reminded me of the classic abuse trope of blink twice if you're being hit. I don't know where that comes from or how it originated, but it felt accurate. Note, we're mentioning the ominous he figure again, which is presumably someone close to Jonah due to the fact that he's around consistently enough for Gabby to take notice. It could be Jonah's father, or maybe a stepfather. What I really want to get into is what Angel Gabby told Jonah to grab off the kitchen table with two hands. It couldn't have been a spoon, because it would be difficult to harm yourself with an object such as that. The only two objects I could think of that'd even be dangerous to hold on a kitchen table is a fork and a knife. I've seen a knife held between my two hands, maybe in the hands of a child, but never a fork. So we know that Jonah grabbed a knife for protection. Aha! What I'm unsure with, however, is what was Gabby telling Jonah to hide? Was it pieces of the body of the he that was abusing him? I thought so at first, until Gabby told us at the end of the episode that she's never drawn a weapon, but she wants you two to prepare in case they do. So it threw me off, leaving me to believe that maybe Jonah didn't kill the man. But what other piece could Jonah have had in his possession that would, in Angel Gabby's words, incriminate him? Here, I was left deeply confused with more questions than what led to answers. Tape 4. Little White Alibis. I know with a title like this for a tape, you can bet your bottom dollar I was onto something on the last tape, which is good, because I was starting to doubt my own detective abilities. This tape started off with Francis telling Gabby that he shouldn't have lied about taking one of her wings. Gabby says that he's not only upset about Francis taking one of her wings, but it hurts even more that he'd lie about it afterwards. Francis asks for forgiveness, and Gabby once again uses this as a teaching moment for the Bible to demonstrate Proverbs 19 that tells us to forgive and what happens to liars. The VCR recording is a little bit different, however. We start off at the apology once more. Gabby then gives a quite peculiar solution for this lying affair. Gabby tells Jonah that when you know you'll get in trouble from the truth, you should create a truth for later. She tells Jonah when something bad happens that you go to a friend's house, so when they ask you about what you did earlier, you won't have to lie. Gabby then reminds Jonah that they will in fact ask you later. She's giving Jonah an alibi. Jonah, after seeing this recording, then does some research and finds out there was a flood in a nearby municipality building near him. Gabby then comforts a young Jonah and tells him to take his time to think of a solution for what he just did. There's a pause, then Gabby tells Jonah that she was thinking the same thing, and she'll help in whatever way that she can. Tape 4 thoughts. At this point, what I believe happened so far is that Jonah attacked the he that was abusing him with a knife, because he felt that he needed to use the weapon. He then consults with Gabby on how to get rid of this weapon and body. He does this within the same time frame of tape 3. Then Gabby, within 4 shows, tells Jonah how to get an alibi so he doesn't have to lie about where he was. Gabby knows they, being the police, are going to end up asking Jonah where he was. Not only that, but she teaches him how to get rid of evidence against him. Before this tape, I didn't know what a minimal building even was, so I took to Google. The definition is, and I quote, any structure owned, leased, controlled, or used by a local government for various purposes. When this tape speaks about and shows us a flood, and no records found. Tape 5. Footage not found. This footage gives a different flow than the rest of the tapes that have been shown. It's really short and there isn't really much to cover. Jonah tells us that he's taken a trip home and shows us footage of the drive. He shows us footage of him greeting his mom and tells us that he hasn't told his mom the reasons why he's there in the first place. He searches this house to find anything that can break the mysteries from his childhood. Jonah discovers that his mom watched media and VHS tapes for troubled children tackling child anger. Tapes like how they recognise faces and when your child is in danger and others like that. Jonah gets frustrated not being able to connect the pieces of his past together, and that he must take it in his own hands to find information, and not having Angel Gabby by his side anymore. There's a video montage of all the children's footage in that place while he tells us this. Tape 5 thoughts. I didn't have that many thoughts from this tape, and it feels wrong to force information out of me, but I did have one observation. Jonah's mother was either a troubled child herself, or she needed assistance on how to deal with a troubled child. Due to the compilation of the child anger and child troubled tapes, one of the precipitators to having a troubled child is a single parent household. Could this be another sign of Jonah's character development from his father not being around during this time period? I think so. Tape 6. A final call. This episode focuses on clips from Jonah's childhood, where Angel Gabby was always there to cheer him on and support him. In a specific clip, Gabby talks about how colours in nature can signal danger, showing that animals use these colours to protect themselves. She suggests that they can also be strong and defend themselves. Gabby teaching about nature's warning signs implies that Jonah and her can also bravely face threats. In a strange turn of events, Jonah decides to live stream an episode, which leads to a special and almost surreal interaction between him and Gabby. Jonah manages to reconnect with Gabby during the live streams. Gabby realises Jonah is watching, and they have a heartfelt union where they both touch hands across the screen. Tape 6 thoughts. Throughout this series, one of my biggest questions that I've been trying to figure out is what is Jonah's weird attachment to Angel Hare? It's almost unhealthy, if you really look at it. Like, I don't know about you, but I've never thought about going back in the past and having a heartfelt moment, finding my childhood best friend Generator Rex from Cartoon Network or anything. So obviously, Jonah's a little bit of a weird kid, which is understandable, because it seems that Angel Gabby was one of his closest childhood friends, which only strengthened from Jonah having to depend on this cartoon through strong emotional stress and turmoil. I mean, committing a crime together can really make a bond with someone, huh? The Easter tape, Cracked Shells. So this is the bonus Easter tape that I haven't seen a lot of people cover at all. This tape starts us off by looking at an Angel Hare Easter VCR recording, within the midst of a bunch of other Easter material. Jonah tells us that it was his first Easter by himself. This Easter is accompanied by friend Francis and Angel Gabby. Jonah, Francis and Gabby participate in egg painting. Gabby uses this event as a ploy to get closer to our protagonist. Every time Gabby would try to walk to Jonah alone, she was interrupted by Francis, which would visibly leave Gabby annoyed. In this episode, it truly shows the closeness of Jonah and Gabby's bond, but the episode doesn't continue down this cheery path for long. We're then shown the VHS tape of Angel Gabby being streamed on a laptop, where Francis calls for Gabby on repeat, but to our surprise, she doesn't return, which is a deep contrast from the beginning of the episode, where it shows what used to be a close bond, and we cut to modern day, where Jonah cannot even communicate with Gabby anymore. The Easter tape, Cracked Shells Thoughts. Jonah has a strange comfort with Gabby, and this episode is great evidence on why this is. He spent a significant amount of time with this character, and vice versa. What's weird to me is how Jonah cannot really move on past his childhood friend. Or maybe he can. I suspect that Jonah's going through another hardship in life, which has made him turn so heavily to angel hair once more. Also, R.I.P. Francis, still to this day not getting any love whatsoever from the other cast members. Case 1. Do you know this rabbit? In the first part of the story, there's a strange twist in the mystery of Angel Gabby disappearing. After streaming for 158 hours, waiting for Gabby to return, a cartoon rabbit that nobody knows appears on the screen. This rabbit eerily says the same kind of hello that Gabby used to say to Francis. The rabbit looks straight into the camera and asks, "Is this a new friend?" This suggests he knows someone is watching. The episode ends with a creepy sound of deep breathing as the credits start. This new twist adds another layer of mystery to the whole story. The arrival of this unknown rabbit character is quite surprising and very different from what everyone expected with Angel Gabby. The rabbit repeats phrases that Gabby usually says, acting almost like a replacement for her. This makes sense since it's like the beginning of a new season in the story. TV shows often bring in new characters, stories, or surprises at the start of a new season to grab the audience's attention and set the mood for future episodes. The way this episode ends, especially with that creepy ending, hints that this season might be more mysterious and thrilling, and that the story might get even deeper. Case 1 Thoughts. I know we're not supposed to like the new Angel that comes down, but I actually kinda like him. A little bit more than Angel Gabby, I dare say. Maybe I just tend to gravitate more towards snarky, nonchalant attitude, in contrast to Gabby's uptone and up-tempo behaviour. This is a kids' TV show after all, so from that perspective, a character like this wouldn't be appropriate for the setting. Case 2 Last Resorts. In this part of Angel Hare, a new character named Angel Zaggy is in for Gabby and talks to Francis. Jonah feels uneasy about this change, saying, "I feel sick watching this." The episode becomes more intense. Zaggy talks about respect and saying sorry, which differs from Gabby's usual message about faith and hope. Things get tense when Jonah tries to talk to Zaggy, who doesn't respond at first. But when Jonah says he might stop the broadcast, Zach finally speaks up, questioning Jonas's motives. The episode ends with Zaggy asking Jonah, sharply, "I came to find her, genius. What are you doing?" leaving viewers hanging. The second part raises the stakes, moving from themes of hope and advice to themes of judgment and conflict. Case 2 Thoughts. There's a connection between Angel Zaggy and the person who Jonah got rid of when he was younger. How do I know this? Well, there's only 2 individuals that are referred to as he in this series. Angel Zaggy by Jonah because he refuses to name him, and the he that's referenced in Jonah's early childhood as the man who physically abused him. Also, the automatic hate that's received from Jonah to Zaggy is unreasonable, almost like he just doesn't like the angel, just off of untamed emotion. He defaults into thinking that this new angel has done something bad to Gabby and that he'll do something to Jonah next. All of this is negative, and for what? Just because the new angel's attitude is different from Gabby's? That's hardly very nice. Case 3. Circumstantial Crossroads. Jonah has done research in the Bible to find references to Angel Zaggy. He says there's so many, but this show only ever had one. This transitions right into the start of the VHS tape, with Zaggy roaming in Gabby belongings. After this, he asks Francis how Gabby would usually start these lessons off. Jonah and Zaggy establish rapport with each other by their mutual need of wanting to find Angel Gabby. Then, Zaggy devises a plan to find Gabby once and for all and tells Jonah it, while at the same time not revealing it to the onlooking audience. Case 3 Thoughts. I've noticed that Jonah's starting to open up more to Zaggy, the more Zaggy shows genuine interest in looking for Gabby. This episode didn't really have anything clicked for me, to be honest. I don't know why, but I feel bad, and I really don't even have much to say. Case 4 Field Work. In the last episode, Zaggy alludes to the audience that he'd be able to do more field work if he wasn't so two-dimensional, so there's only so much he could accomplish. which leads to him constructing a plan in the outside world for Jonah to follow, which isn't revealed to us just yet. In this case, the plan is demonstrated to the audience after leaving us in deep suspense. Jonah is shown travelling to a new location. It's an office that's snuck into an unknown location. Jonah finds a tape called Wild Hare, which consists of a detective named Zag Wild, accompanied by a woman receptionist and a blonde-haired boy. We are introduced to the new world of Wild Hare, which ultimately ends with Zag Wild revealing that a character within their show is missing as well. Then, Jonah, knowing the character can hear him, as well as the ones in Angel Hare, could tell the blonde boy in Zag Wild that he knows how to find their missing friend. Case 4 thoughts. There's a clear similarity between Zag Wild and Angel Zaggy. This is made obvious by them first having such a similar name, both with Zag, and even having the same exact voice actors. Remember within Case 3, when Francis refers to Zaggy as Angel Zag, and Zaggy gets frustrated, telling him not to call him that? He got frustrated because this clearly isn't even his name. Another piece of info that Zaggy gave us in Angel Hare is that he isn't even originally from the show, and he's just stepping in to look for Gabby. Do you know whose job it is to gather evidence and look for missing people? Detectives. Another thing I noticed is that the blonde character within Wild Hare had the same exact voice as Francis. This could also mean that Francis isn't originally from the show either, or that the blonde boy could possibly be Francis. Case 5. Flirting with the Void. We start off in the episode with a colleague of Angel Gabby Media. We're shown the good times that Jonah has had with his now lost friend. Jonah desperately misses her, and now he's devised a plan with Detective Zag to finally get her back. We're almost at the finale. The plan is simple. The plan is to play a tape with music and stream it on so many screens that Gabby, wherever she is, can hear it and finally respond to the cast's calls. During this process, Jonah uses this as an opportunity to question the intentions and relationship Detective Zag has with Gabby. This doesn't work, because during the process, Detective Zag is avoidant and evasive through the questioning, which ends in Gabby interrupting the feud once and for all, appearing to the cast once more. Case 5 thoughts. This episode was pretty much a confirmation that Angel Zaggy is Detective Zag. Even down to how these two characters communicate is acutely the same. When Jonah was first introduced to Angel Zaggy, he's worrisome and uncomfortable with Angel Zaggy's presence, and proceeds to question him with no avail. The same thing is almost exactly how Jonah is introduced to Detective Zag, minus the initial distrust and hatred. Also, I find it strange that Detective Zag calls Gabby an associate, insinuating that they're not that close to begin with. But when Angel Gabby is finally revealed to us, Zag yells out to her, calling her Gabs. Gabs is clearly a nickname that Zag hasn't given to her, telling us that these characters are actually pretty close to each other, actually. I don't know about you, but I don't give nicknames to those I can't fondly remember at work. Another piece of evidence to support these two characters' closeness is how ecstatic Zag was to finally see Gabby again. Pushing against his TV screen, yelling in joy, calling out to Gabby multiple times. These are actions for a man who hasn't seen someone close to him in a long time, and is now joyless just to know that they're still around. Thanks, detective, for that obvious lie. Case 6. Lady Come Down. In this final iteration of Angel Gabby, Jonah, Zag and Francis give their final words to Gabby, shown to us on the screen. Jonah lets Gabby know when she is revealed where they are located, and that they are here to find her. But what's strange is that Jonah shares with a sudden regret that even though he has finally found his long-lost friend, he's afraid that he's even shown up in the first place. Gabby comforts Jonah, telling him this is alright, which is a stark contrast from Detective Zag, questioning if Jonah's friendship with Gabby really even was that strong. This final episode is about adaptation, and accepting the new reality of a changed person, Francis, who is revealed to be the blonde boy in this Wild Hare show, tells us that Jonah doesn't look how he used to look, giving a weird look to our protagonist, which goes along with Zag and Gabby giving a back and forth about the new world, and how they're metamorphosing into their new environment. This is what the last sighting of Angel Gabby is about. Case 6 Thoughts. What I find very unique about this series is that I find it very positive. Usually when an analog horror story ends, we're left with a sense of dread. I think it's written this way because in the horror genre, it's typically shown to us a twist ending, or a very bad resolve for our characters within stories. Angel Hare flips this on its head by not only ending us off with a good resolution for our character, but on the other hand, it gives a positive message to the people to end off with. To be adaptive in all situations, no matter how difficult or strange it might seem. What's great about this series is that it actually has a message. Most analog horror's goal is just to make you feel uneasy, unsafe, and to dive into the world of automatnophobia. Side note, if you didn't know what automatnophobia is, it's fear of things that are almost human, like being scared of things that resemble humans. Anyways, back to my original point. Most analog horror's goal is just to give you spooks here and there, but this story is much different. It wants to provide a coherent story, a message, and a positive outlook and philosophy on life in the end. What more could you ask for within a genre that's known for being cartoonishly evil? I hope you enjoyed this long and intense breakdown of the Angel Hare series, and I thank you for watching the whole way through. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and let us know what topic you like us to cover next, because I do respond and acknowledge you. We'll see you all next time on Jason Disturbo.